We're going to be taking a look at statistics here, and this is the first lesson of our new unit. And this lesson is going to deal mainly with data, what kind of data we have, as well as how can we base it on measures of central tendency. Okay, central tendency really is just a big term for normal. Okay, how do we base things on normal? What kind of normal are we looking for? How do we use normal in our interpretation of statistics? That's what we're going to be taking a look at through the course of this unit. And today we're just going to take a look at what are some of the basis of normal. So we're going to start off with a little example. And that example is right in front of us here. So let's say that you are signing up for a class in university and you have the option of which class you want to be in. And yes, that is true. You can pick whichever class you want to be in, at least as long as you have the requirements for it. So here you're looking at two economics classes. You've pared it down to two different economics classes, one that's taught by Professor Jacobs and one that's taught by a Professor Rosenthal. The last piece of information or the piece of information that you are looking for is the students in his class. How did they do in each case on their final exam? And that's going to help us to give us an idea as to maybe which class you want to be in based on the final exam results for each of those professors. So in this box, we are given 20 exams for each one. So Professor Jacobs, here are 20 exams that have been written and their marks that they got. Professor Rosenthal, here is another 20 exams and the marks that those students got on theirs. Now, how well students do in class is one aspect that you might be looking at when you are deciding which teacher you want to be a part of. Okay. But there are other factors that might come into play as well. And so let's just take a look at a couple other factors. Normally, we would go through this as a class if we were in class right now, but as I'm doing this on video, I'm just going to kind of bring in a couple other things that previous classes of mine have come up with. So one of the things that you might think of, schedule, see if we can spell that right. Okay, does it fit your schedule? Okay, so when we're talking about picking classes in a university or college, one of the things we have to look at is, does it fit your schedule? Okay, is it going to work time wise, or do you have another class exactly that time? Your carpool, does that work? Are you going to be busy? Are you working at certain times? Okay, when are you going to pick your classes? So that's one thing that might come into play when you are picking a class. Um, does the class benefit your future? Okay. So is it a benefit to your future? Do you want to take an economics class? Do you not need an economics class? Is it a requirement um, for your major that you are taking? Are you just taking it for fun? Okay, these are all things that are kind of a factor that you may or may not want to take a course for whatever reason. One, friends slash peers. Okay, are your friends in that class? In high school, you may not get a choice as to what classes you're in based on your friends. You might not be able to say, "Yeah, I want to be with my friend." In university, you can. Okay, you can pick classes that are exactly the same as your friends, and so you can be in the same class as they are. One of the things that you might um, take notes of is the professor's style of teaching. Okay? If you can pick which professor you want to be with, you want to pick one that you might enjoy. Okay? You don't want that guy who, or that person who, is tough to, relate to. Maybe you want the person that's really happy and joyful all the time instead of the crabby old guy who's, always, cracking bad jokes and his classes are miserable. You can pick that. And they actually have websites that are dedicated to choosing a professor. Okay, so that's something as well. Another little thing here, and this is a little tidbit, if you are going to university or college and you're picking your classes, you might want to make sure that you can understand your professor. Okay? This is one thing that if you go into a university, you're going to have professors of all different ethnicities and all different languages, and not all of them are going to be able to speak the language that you listen to very well. I had a professor in university who was of a different ethnicity, and I'm not trying to bash ethnicities here, but he was of a different ethnicity, and his English was not great. He was really difficult to understand in class, and I really had a challenge in that class. If I would have known about this, I might have chosen a different professor. Okay? It's something that you want to make sure about, not just their marks, but this is their style of teaching is important. Last thing that we're going to put on here is the distance from your previous class. Okay. In high school here, you have a challenge of trying to get from class to class on time. In university, the campus is massive, or at least if you go to U of M, it's massive, or some other large university. Okay. Other ones maybe aren't quite so bad, but you might have to travel quite a distance to get from class to class. And you only have a certain amount of time, and showing up late may not be an option. So making sure that your classes are close enough together that you can get to all of them. These are all things that would come into play when we're talking about which class we want to be in. Marks are another one. If you are in university, you're probably trying to get a good mark so that you can boost up your GPA and your average. Making sure that you're in a class where the professor gives out or has good marks is something that you probably want to be a part of. So let's imagine that all five of these things kind of match, all of them work, and you're okay with them. And you are taking a look at which class you want to be in. Do you want to be with Professor Jacobs or Professor Rosenthal? Both are good options. Looking at their final marks, which one would you choose? Well, you probably want to choose, okay, so assuming that all of these factors are good, you probably want to choose a class which will give you the best marks. Okay? Plain and simple. You probably want the class that's going to give you the best marks, the best chance of success. And that might be Professor Jacobs' class, that might be Professor Rosenthal's class. We're going to take a look at measures of central tendency or norms and figure out in which class would students normally get a better mark. Okay? And we're going to take a look at three different aspects of that, and we're going to look at how those affect your marks.